All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Look at the Nasdaq spike up. I started the stream about a minute early just because we started to break all-time highs. All right, again. Guys. Good morning. Sorry, I got rid of the echo. It looks like they added the top fan section to our chat, which is good. Look at the Nasdaq run. Bitcoin pulling back a little bit today, down to 117. Apple up to 209s. Nasdaq breaking all-time highs. Literally, as I say this. New all-time highs on the Nasdaq are 23,192. We had bank earnings come out this morning already. Banks are out with their earnings reports. JP Morgan, BDPS beat revenue. Wells Fargo, and it's basically not moving at all from this earnings report. We got Wells Fargo gapping down on their earnings after Wells Fargo posted 160 EPS versus 141 expected, revenue of 20.82 billion versus 20.72 expected. Credit loss provision showed 1.005 billion. And so they're gapping down a little bit here. Bank of New York posted 193 EPS versus 175, revenue of 4.83. It's not actually showing their revenue here, to be honest. A couple other earnings reports. BlackRock posted 1205 versus 1081 expected. So we had some bank earnings. Most of them beat. I didn't see any that really missed significantly here. Most of these bank stocks beat their EPS, beat their revenue. We'll have to dig a little bit deeper to find more information, but they're kind of having mixed results here. And then following this up, like if we take a look at Nvidia up ridiculously large today. There's a couple catalysts that have come out for Nvidia specifically here. Yeah, and it's open to become one of the top chatters because it looks like it's just adding, like, it's starting to take the data for the chat now. And so, yeah, you can become the top chatter pretty easily. So Nvidia teased a win for its China business, and big money could be there on the line. So it says it expects to get back into the China market 3 months after warning about stiffer U.S. regulations concerning chip sales to the region. In a late Monday blog post, Nvidia did disclose that it is filing to be able to sell its H2O chip, a downgraded version of its Hopper lineup that it previously formatted to comply with restrictions in China. It said it received assurances from the government that licenses will be granted for the sale of these chips, and Nvidia hoping it will soon be able to deliver that overseas. Robinhood also missed out on joining the S&P again. Now they went with Trade Desk instead, so that's going on. I'm looking at other news. I do see that Google is going to invest $25 billion in data centers across Pennsylvania and neighboring states. So that news is out right now. Yeah. I don't know why they don't like Robinhood, but Nvidia's gapping up. Nasdaq's breaking all-time highs. Bitcoin's pulling back some. But yeah, let me drink some coffee here. Honestly, I haven't drank it yet. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We got inflation data at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time today coming out. So it's honestly a big report. Biggest report in a while. So CPI inflation data is expected at, let me see what they're expected at. Yeah, so CPI inflation data. We also have Canadian CPI data coming out exactly at the same time, but year over year it's expected at 2.6%, 0.3% on the month. All right, so we're going to put this big yellow letter update here. Here's the CPI inflation data. All right, so that is going live 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Nvidia gapping up big here. If you take a look at Nvidia this morning, big gap up here, big gap up. Oh. Strong. I don't know why it's so strong this morning. Strong is good, I guess. All right. All right, so we're pulling back from all-time highs. SPY, Q, Dow, all kind of slightly lower, although they should be moving up here. Actually, no, NASDAQ and Q are breaking all-time highs. June CPI drops at 8:30, expected at 0.3%. Headline and core is expected at 0.3%, I think, here. Yeah, core is expected at 0.3% month to month. On the year, core is expected at 3%. On the year, headline is expected at 2.6%. We also have the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index is expected at -8. Last time was -16, but it's dropping at the same time. We also have, we got a whole bunch of stuff. I'll put a timer up here, but a lot of stuff going on today. Finally, man, it's finally, we get a busy day, bro. It's been so slow. We got the timer up here. Let's do a poll. Does today's CPI month over month show up higher or lower than the 0.3% expected? We're going to do higher or lower as expected. Vote on that poll now. That poll is now live as well. All right, let me make sure. Yeah, Nvidia causing the NASDAQ to break all-time highs. New all-time highs on the NQ. Make sure it's all-time highs. It's now 23,192 right here. So this is the new all-time high level. We broke it slightly. Again, NASDAQ, S&P futures rise early as AI chip. Nvidia jumps 5% in pre-market following approval potentially of H2O chip sales to China, boosting other chip names like AMD and Marvel. Trade desk is up. TTD, I think is what it is, the trade desk. Yeah, they're gapping up pretty significantly here. If you take a look at this, they are all the way up to 86.40 after getting added to the S&P 500, replacing Annis. We had JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, most bank earnings, BDP, S&P revenue. Now some are getting different reactions. Like JP Morgan's flat. I believe Wells Fargo's down a little bit. But today, again, most people are waiting for the June CPI reading, expected at 2.7 or 2.6% for headline year over year, 3% for core, 0.3% month over month for both core and headline, month over month inflation. Markets are still shrugging off a lot of the Russia, EU, Mexico tariff threats for now. S&P 500 quarter two EPS growth now forecasted at 5.8% versus 10.2% in April. Calls for analysts to think corporate resilience. All right, so according to the Bank of America's Global Fund Manager Survey for July, released Tuesday, the last 3 months witnessed the biggest spike on record for risk appetite. Cash levels dropped to under 4% from 4.2%. Signaling a sell-off of Bank of America's proprietary trading model. This is the second sell signal prompted in the last week by Bank of America trading rules. The reason for this is inflows to global equity and high-yield bonds exceeded 1% assets under management for over a 4-week period of time. We also have MicroStrategy up. I don't know, MicroStrategy's not really up today. It's gapping down a little bit, but still holding Bitcoin purchases above 600,000 for MicroStrategy. Again, Robinhood is trying to get into the S&P. Trade Desk got it instead. That CNBC has removed the 10-year bond. Did they really? That's who I usually go to, is CNBC, I think. I mean, 10-year currently sitting at 4.42%. It hasn't really moved at all since yesterday. I think it's kind of waiting for this data to show up, but it hasn't really moved. Yeah, it hasn't really moved. Bro, I got a bunch of funded accounts here. All right, so we're dipping down here. We're at 23,179. Bro. There we go. Activated that one. So that lets me activate that one. All right, I already activated it. Let's activate this one. Okay, done already. All right, cool. All right, so how many funded accounts do I have right now, dude? Okay, I've got that one. All right, well, we're here. We're pulling back a little bit now. Still watching the news. The European Union says they're going to work with Slovakia to address concerns about Russia gas phase out, according to a letter from the EU Commissioner to Slovak Prime Minister. Treasury Secretary Bessent says he does not look at the upcoming inflation numbers before he appears on TV, but he has access to it the night before. Okay, so essentially what Bessent is saying is that he can see it, but he chooses not to look at it. Is that right? Like, I don't understand the point. Like, so Bessent's saying he does not look at the upcoming inflation number before he appears on TV, but he has access to it the night before. So you can look at it the night before, but you don't? Why not? I guess maybe he doesn't want to spill the beans, but, you know, I don't know, man. Again, we covered this a little bit earlier. Google says they're going to invest $25 billion in data centers across Pennsylvania and the neighboring states. John, are you feeling a higher CPI, therefore a pullback across traditional markets and crypto? I think we got to look at trueflation a little bit here, especially leading into the inflation data today. I think we got to look at trueflation a little bit and see what trueflation is showing here, you know. Trueflation has it at about 1.8% for trueflation US inflation index. See if they have a CPI. When they have PCE, they think 2.3%. BLS Consumer Price Index, 2.4% is what they think. I wish it let me look at a 1 month one. But we might show, you know, if trueflation's right, we could show up at 2.4%. For most analysts, they see it getting a little bit better. Like, here's a 6-month look at inflation. We've been spiking since May, though. So inflation has, like, if you look at most of these. Let me sign into trueflation, actually. All right, so here's the 1 month data. They have 1 month. Yeah, they still have it at 1.82%. I'm still trying to look at the here's a 6-month graph, a 1 month graph. They don't put too much weight, they, you know, on the CPI data though. 2.35% on the year is what they have it at. But it was updated in May, so. Today's is June's report. Coming from a company that sells imports, we loaded up the day president was announced. Profit taking for Nvidia. Yeah, I mean, Nvidia's up huge today, of course, on the H2O easing to China. Still up big. Caused the NASDAQ to break all-time highs this morning early. I don't know, Alan. I'm not really. I don't think that's allowed for me to use, so I don't know. I don't watch it really. Yeah, no. So I've already covered that fender regarding that cash drop. So they say, according to Bank of America's Global Fund Manager survey for July that was released this morning, the last 3 months saw the biggest spike on record for risk appetite. So basically, risk appetite has spiked to its largest on record, according to Bank of America's Global Fund Manager survey for July released this morning. Cash levels dropped to 3.9% from 4.2%, which did trigger a sell signal on their proprietary trading model. It's the second one in the last week of their trading rules after inflows to global equity and high yield bonds exceeded 1%. Bond yields are still very high right now. We took a look at them this morning. Bond yields currently sitting for 10-year treasuries at 4.27%. Now remember, bond yields and interest rates follow each other. And so yields and interest rates follow each other. So a higher bond yield sentiment over the last 5 days, you can kind of see they creeped up here starting on the 11th, and they've basically been sideways since then. Slightly higher, but sideways as the market waits to digest the inflation data. Now, they're still high, though. They're at 4.42%. This is very high. You know, they're high anyway. Like, even under 4.4%, they're still incredibly high right now. If you take a look at all-time high, especially relative to the last, like, 15 years. Bond yields haven't really been this high in 15 years prior to 2022. But since 2022, they've gone from about 3% all the way to 4.4%. So bond yields have been spiking for years now, but they're higher They're getting close to the high of the last 15 years, really, if we take a look at this. Like the high of the last 15 years is at about 4.6%. They're at 4.42%. So they're getting there. And this is a high interest rate sentiment. Obviously, like if you take a look at this, 2022, if we look at the all-time high graph and zoom in here, obviously like 2022, this is when the Federal Reserve was so restrictive, right? 2022, they hiked rates, they did a bunch of stuff. But yeah, bond yields are incredibly high right now. Still sideways for the last day or so. If we take a look at the rate cut expectations here, how's the music level? Music level good? Let me know. Should be pretty solid. But if you take a look at rates, the likelihood of a rate cut has decreased over the last 24 hours. It's now all the way down to 4.47%, under 5% likelihood of a cut this month in July. In about 15 days, 2 weeks. So a cut is becoming less and less likely. Crude oil went down 4%. Does that mean inflation is not going to be that bad? No, not necessarily. Crude oil was probably reacting to easing in Middle Eastern stuff. But music is good. Nice. All right, so right now, Fender is the #1 top fan. Trung is #2. I have a Vietnamese friend named Trunk. So shout out to Trunk. Yowzer is #3. Womble is #4. Zet is #5. Pawn is #6. Ryan's #9. SmackDown's #8. M is #10. BT Bulldog's #11. We can kind of see a list of the top 50 of you guys. So I appreciate the commenters. I appreciate it. You can get a rank here. Honestly, it just started this morning. So if you want #1, you just got to comment a lot today, you know. And you can get it. They're just basing it off of today's stream. They're not like pulling old data from old streams or anything like that. So I think if they were, the layout would be different, but all right, guys. Hey, we got less than an hour before CPI inflation data. NASDAQ is pulled all the way back to that 200 exponential moving average. Yeah, I know, Brian. A lot of these guys are new today for CPI, but it's all good. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll do some levels here. The main level's this high right here, this all-time high. It's hard because we've been in this upward trend, though. But I would look at, like, 170 seems to be a level here. 170. It's hard because we're so strong that we're just kind of moving up and up and up. I put 150 here. It's confirmed a couple times. This one has a double bottom at about 133 or something like that. 135 maybe you can call it. I'm gonna call it 133. So 133 has a double bottom there, and that's basically like, I'm not really looking at anything else. I'm looking at, after this, I'm looking at 23.2. And so I think it's possible we break this all-time high, hit 23.2, and then come back down. But we'll see. We got some levels on the charts. We're watching it now. Hey, thank you, Fender. John, do you think the market is overpriced right now? Short term, and potentially. I mean, we don't know. I think you got to understand, right? Like, earlier in the year, we had this big, massive dip, right? This big pullback. Everybody freaked out. They said it's the end of the world. Market's going to crash and all that stuff. And one of the things that I was saying pretty regularly over and over again while that dip was happening is that the biggest losers in market crashes are people who get emotional and sell. The biggest winners are usually people that buy those dips up. Long term, the market's going to go up almost certainly. It's never 100%, but it's pretty close. And you got to understand the biggest statistical edge is on the upside, right? Like long term, NASDAQ, S&P, they're going up, right? And so now that we're breaking all-time highs again, it's not really a shock. I mean, this is how the market behaves. The market breaks all-time highs. Sometimes it continues, sometimes it pulls back, and then eventually it's going to break it again. And I think you know, I think you just have to understand that's the biggest statistical edge. It's one of the reasons I don't short blue chip stocks. I don't short, not really. Like there's some isolated stocks that I think are just terrible that I might not like, but you just got to understand that nuance. Like market's going to go up long term. Short term, you have no freaking idea what's going to happen. It might crash tomorrow. Long term is pretty safe to bet on the upside. I was explaining this to my wife the other day. And I'm pretty sure I've explained it to you guys at least once before, probably more than that. But when banks sell you on interest rates for CDs, for treasuries, for whatever they're selling you on, say they promise you 4%, right? Say a bank says, hey, I've got a certified deposit and you can put your money in our bank and we'll give you 4%. What that bank is doing is that they're taking your money and then they're investing in riskier assets. They're investing in the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the S&P and NASDAQ averaged 8 to 10% a year. And so they're taking your money, they're investing it in that. They're averaging 8 to 10% over the long run because they have enough money to where it doesn't matter. And then they're profiting the 6% difference there. And then they're giving you your little 4% and they're keeping the difference with free leverage, free money. It's not even their money. They're keeping 6% from it. That's what banks are doing. And they have the risk appetite to be able to sit in it long term, regardless of whether we crash, because they understand long term, NASDAQ, S&P average 8 to 10%. But you have a guaranteed return for the most part, covered by the FDIC, and they can use your money to make more. And so everybody wins, kind of, but still, that's what they're doing. 0.3% expected is already high, so I'm surprised so many people think it'll be even higher. Yeah. Nvidia seems pretty cheap at these prices. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't know what Nvidia is going to do. What I do know is this kind of thought experiment in my head regarding AI. What I do know is that AI is going to get better and better and better and better. It's going to become more widely used over time. It's going to open up in a lot of different sectors, specifically video editing, like automatic editors, all kind of stuff. It's going to get better and better and better. And in a lot of those, it's already in there, but it's going to get more and more profound over time. This is something that's incredibly clear to me. AI and microchips and Nvidia and all these different stocks are almost, I'm not going to say certain because you never know. The internet was a justifiable technology, but we crashed for years from the .com crash. So it doesn't mean we're not going to pull back. But what I know is that long-term AI stocks are probably going to do very, very, very well. Short-term, you never know. Long-term, it's probably pretty, solid. Again, though, not an investment professional, not liable if you lose money. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Might be wildly wrong about anything and everything I say. Understand CFTC 4.41. I can't guarantee a thing. Definitely not in a market professional. None of this is trading advice or professional investment advice. I have no idea what's going to happen. But still, this is a pretty crazy, you have to think about how much AI has gotten better in the last 2 years and then extrapolate that over 20. And these should do incredibly well, but you never know. Bro, how did you identify those levels? I've explained it a lot. Watch the last video we uploaded. We talk about this in full detail, exactly what we do to draw these levels. Literally to a T, we talk about it. Very easy. Very simple. Honestly, it looks complicated. It's not. Incredibly simple. But just go watch the last video. It's 8 minutes, 7 minutes long, 6 minutes. I don't know how long it is. But it's not very long. It's pretty easy. Just go watch it. Yeah, I have no idea. You have the best disclaimer in the industry. Definitely top 3. I would say it's in the top 2, but it's just honest. It's honest. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Might be wildly wrong about anything. This is everybody. Like, listen, if anybody talks on stream for 3 hours, you better believe I'm going to get some stuff wrong eventually. So I just try to tell people the truth. Why are you repeating the disclaimer every 10 minutes? The only time I really repeat it is if I talk about some type of future outlook, you know. But you're among the top 3 in getting things right. Top 3 worst ever. I think I'm pretty good. I mean, listen, everybody's wrong sometimes. I think that I've told people, like, what I think is going to happen is really based off of just the history of the market, you know. You got some people that say the market's going to crash. We had some people saying the S&P would be down 80% right now. And, you know, I just try to tell them, look, market might crash 30%, even 40% can sometimes happen. But over decades, the thing to do in that situation is probably to buy, not sell. The people who lose the most in crashes are people that get scared and sell. You know, an example of this is during the last crash, one of the banks that were managing one of my family members' retirement income, their retirement, wanted to sell Tesla and some other stocks at the bottom of this crash. At the bottom, literally 30% down from highs, they wanted to sell. And my wife came to me because she knows I run a finance stream. And she said, hey, what do you think I should do? And I told her, as I tell you, I have no idea what's going to happen. If it was me, I'd buy more. And so luckily she didn't listen to the bank that was trying to pressure her into selling at the bottom. And here we are now. Tesla's up very big from where they were, like 50% or something. The S&P's back up to all-time highs. NASDAQ's back up to all-time highs. You know, I think banks have a little bit different of a bias, though. I think banks have to worry about people leaving, and so they have to worry about protecting a little bit more than normal average investors or traders. But I should have given her the disclaimer. Yeah, I slept all day yesterday, really all day. Well, the bank basically messaged them and said, what do you want to do? Like asking them what they wanted them to do. And they said they think they should sell here. And I think they said reset. You got to question these banks, though. Like, they should understand, look, if we're down 30 to 40%, is that the time to sell? I don't think so. The worst thing to do there is sell. You know, then you're going to eat the loss. If you wait long enough, it's almost certainly going to come back. And if it's a retirement account and my wife's 30, it shouldn't matter anyway, you know. You can sit on that long enough to let it come back. I don't know what the point is. But hey. Treasury Secretary Bassett insists that the president won't fire Powell. I always thought he can't fire him. Technically, the Federal Reserve and the government are independent entities to each other, right? The Federal Reserve is not a government entity. And politicians are not supposed to be able to fire the Federal Reserve. Now, what they can do is pressure. Like, they can pressure them in a number of different ways is what they can do. They can leverage things. They can pressure them. They're still independent, but that's what it is. How come the bank doesn't have a disclaimer like you do? Well, the bank's not streaming to 900 people right now, you know, live. So it's a little bit different of a thing. Bank's just talking to us. Hey, what's up, Sam? But yeah, the top fans thing is now active. So you can become a top fan. Top fans currently, number 1 is Zet. Number 2 is Stretch. Number 3 is Fender. 4 is Soho. 5 is Trung. 6 is Admirals. 7 is Yowzer. 8 is Womble. Pawns number 9. And then Nightbot number 10. The bank can afford many lawyers. Yeah. They can afford better lawyers than I can. That's for sure. Nvidia breaking all-time highs again today after, again, the news for Nvidia is big. It's massive. Nvidia says it expects to get back into the China market. In a late Monday blog post, they said that it is filing to be able to sell H2O chips to China again, a downgraded version of its Hopper line. That it said it formatted to comply with restrictions to China. Nvidia said it received assurances from the U.S. government that, quote, licenses will be granted, end quote. So that's good for Nvidia. Nasdaq's coming down after breaking all-time highs, though. So, you know, and we're, again, 45 minutes, and we have CPI inflation data. So in 45 minutes, we got big inflation data coming out. The market could very well move in a big range, but sideways leading into this. We still have 45 minutes until this report drops. Market could very much move in a sideways neutral range here. Looking at our polls, we got 47% thinking CPI is going to be worse than expected, higher than expected. 47%, 32% think lower, 21% think as expected. Yeah, I appreciate the understanding, Ahmed. Ahmed says he repeats the disclaimer every 10 minutes to protect himself. Yeah, banks have disclaimers too, right, for sure. Will AMD go back to all-time highs? I don't know. AMD's got a ways away. Here's AMD. It's gapping up with Nvidia here, but all-time highs on AMD are 185 plus. I think they're higher than that. Look at this NASDAQ dip. They're 227s. So we are a big ways away from AMD all-time highs. Look at the NASDAQ fall here. I'm trying to see if there's any breaking news. Bear with me here. Treasury Reuters poll, demand for U.S. Treasuries will lag supply this quarter, said 23 out of 30 bond strategists. The 10-year yield is going to fall to 4.4% from 4.35% and 4.3% in 3 and 6 months. Wells Fargo says credit quality continued to be strong for consumers. State Street posted earnings. They posted 217 versus 233. They missed EPS. Revenue of $3.45 billion versus 3.35 expected. Net income of almost $700 million. Expected 674. So, but again, Treasury Reuters poll, demand for U.S. Treasuries will lag this quarter, according to 23 out of 30 strategists. 10 years going to fall. Yeah, it's probably this news dropping. I'm looking elsewhere, though, but it's probably this news causing these drops right now. All right, we're at 23,150s here. All right, so here's the big stories. June CPI is expected to show a notable uptick, 0.3% month-over-month for headline and core, marking the first clear pass-through effect from tariffs on goods like furniture, electronics, and autos. Core CPI nears 3%. Year-over-year core CPI seen climbing to around 3%, accelerating from May's numbers, raising questions about inflation. Powell described this summer as pivotal to assess if tariff pressures are translating into sustained inflation, influencing what the Federal Reserve does. And analysts are monitoring household furnishings, electronics, outdoor equipment, and toy sector where tariffs will be inflating prices. But despite anticipated CPI rise, consumer expectations remain anchored 3%, reducing fears of a broader inflation spiral. Hotter CPI print could push 10-year Treasury yields higher and strengthen the dollar, weighing on rate-sensitive assets as well. All right, so Lavrov on the president's statement about Ukraine. We want to understand what the U.S. president is moved by. All right, so we are making a post about the biggest stories to watch for inflation data today. So again, we got a post going live now. Basically on x.com, basically breaking down the big stories to pay attention to for today's CPI report. Yeah, so Nvidia AI chip China sales news has buoyed tech futures, but higher yields could ignite selling pressure in growth names. So just be careful there too. CPI will be pivotal in determining if tariff talk is more than noise. So like that's the story of this CPI report is like, are we finally seeing tariff impacts here? Is what I'm saying. All right, so that post is now. That post is now live. If you want to check it out on our X page at Beginner Trades, at Beginner Trades. Again, the reason the market's down is probably this Reuters poll. Albertson's posted some earnings here. Wells Fargo says tariffs are causing clients to be cautious about borrowing and investments. Hey, thank you, Jeffrey. Serious question. Is Powell hoping for lower or higher CPI numbers? If the latter, it suggests his motivations are compromised. Yeah, of course. I mean, if he's hoping for higher inflation. The only reason Powell should ever want higher inflation is if we have deeply weak labor market, which we don't right now. I don't think we're going to know what Powell wants, though. I don't think that's a reasonable thing to look at because I don't think he's ever going to tell us what he wants. He's only going to tell us what the market needs in his mind, right? So his analysis of it is what he's going to tell us. Again, the only way he should ever want higher inflation is if we have like a deeply weak labor market, you know, and we're risking recessions and depressions and things like that. I think a really interesting look this quarter is going to be GDP data. I'm trying to see when GDP data comes out. Next GDP report is going to be July 30th. Same day as the same day we have the Fed meeting, we're going to have an updated GDP report, July 30th. Yeah, he's going to be data dependent. I appreciate the donation, but Powell's going to be data dependent, brother. At least that's what he's going to say. We don't know what his true feeling is. You know what I mean? I think Bitcoin is a sign what happens when CPI comes out. Maybe. I'm trading this morning. I think we're going to get chopped. I might buy this dip right here, though. So, again, like I'm probably going to buy this dip. If I can get in enough now. Yeah, we're going to buy this little dip. We're trading pretty small, though. It's CPI data. So, I'm not going to be trading very large until CPI drops. We'll probably react to CPI, though, but I'm just buying this, seeing if we get a choppy range leading into inflation data is what I'm doing here. If we retrace some, I'll buy again and add some more here. All right, I'll go ahead. Maybe going to add one more to this too, but I want to give it a chance to head up to that 200 exponential 170 level. That's what I'm looking at. But yeah, the market recently turned down after Reuters said demand for U.S. Treasuries is going to lag, which means yields are going to be higher. Just to put this into perspective, again, bond prices and yields inverse each other. So if they think bond prices are going to lag, yields are going to spike. And that's kind of the nuance of this. That's why markets are kind of reacting. It means higher interest rate sentiment, weaker for interest rate cuts. Bitcoin's still up 10% of the month. Yeah, Bitcoin breaking all-time highs. Even at this current level, I think it's still very strong. Higher, lower CPI? I have no idea. No, CPI is today. Tomorrow's PPI. Wednesday is usually when rate decisions are going to be. CPI can drop any day of the week. It could drop Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. You never know. But yeah, it's certainly today. Yeah, we got 34 minutes left, so we still got over 30 minutes left. We got well over 1,000 people here, so hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Nice, Sam. Congrats. NASDAQ is down to... Yeah, again, I'm buying this dip small with very small size just because heading into CPI, I think it's plausible we get choppy sideways range, and we've pulled back pretty significantly from all-time highs at this point in time. And so I think we might start to head back up. You never know. Might be wildly wrong, but that's why I'm buying down here now that we're going sideways. And with that said, there's a nice little spike up. We'll give it a second, but... Ooh, dude, I got no sleep. I slept literally all day yesterday. All right, so we're nicely green here. Nicely green. I want to give it a better chance to head up, though. %46% think we're going to get a worse CPI. Go. That's good. I'm gonna take half off up here. Just lock it in. We're just grinding this up more. There we go. Nice. I'm gonna take that off too. All right, so the dip buy worked. We got up to that 200 exponential. If we reject here and come back down, I might buy that dip again and look for that 170 level. But really nice trade. Again, some of the most predictable sideways, choppy, rangy action is ahead of big economic releases. And I think it makes sense to attack that a lot of the time ahead of big reports. Not always. It's never 100%. Nothing works every time. But I think it makes sense in this situation. If the result is 2.4%, the market will pump. Yeah, I think Trueflation has it around that number too. So we'll see. Yeah, Jed said. Yeah, so AMD also said it's going to restart shipments of its MI308 chips to China after the U.S. said it would approve the sales following a similar decision on Nvidia semiconductors. The Commerce Department told AMD that license applications and products would move forward for review, said an AMD spokesperson, allowing the products back into China. So AMD said in April that export restrictions would cost the company about $800 million. So now that that's reversed, AMD and Nvidia are up pretty significantly. Yeah, I don't want an AI to run my live stream though. You know, even if it could, I wouldn't want it to. Oppenheimer also raised the price target to Nvidia from 175 all the way to 200 this morning. So Nvidia upgrade here as well. SOFR rate showed up at 4.33% versus 4.31% on July 11th. So the SOFR rate has gone up. Following treasuries, to be honest, that spiked from July 11th to today is what happened there. They're getting mad at Teddy Bridgewater for taking care of his players. Come on now. What are they mad about? All right, so here's that rejection that we might buy into. Let me see. You know, let's buy it. All right, well, that buy worked. All right, we're going to get out. I mean, we can get out, so we're going to get out. Citigroup just posted 196 EPS, revenue of 21.67. So Citigroup just dropped earnings. What was the expected number for Citigroup? Yeah. Sneezed, I'm sorry. Ooh, excuse me. Bitcoin bullish engulfing on the 15-minute. Anyways, back to economics. Yeah, so we bought the dip right here, rode it up about 5 to 10 ticks, and then got out real quick. Yeah, look at Citigroup spiking. Looks like we got out almost at the top of this. We got out right around 170 because that was like a resistance area. You could also look at 175 here, but looks like we got out exactly at the top. I'd love to see it. Still looking at other news releases here. All right, so OPEC monthly report says refinery intakes globally and particularly in the United States are expected to stay elevated to meet the seasonal rise in transportation and fuel. Again, the big story is Nvidia being up big. There's Nvidia. 171.50s here. I'm just glad we got some economic data to cover because the last week's been boring, man. Nothing. This week's packed full of stuff, which is good. Looking at our poll numbers, 45% think inflation is going to come in high. I don't know. I'm torn. I think it could. I think a lot of people are speculating that this is going to be where we see the tariff impacts to inflation. But then true inflation's at 2.4%. And so I really think it could go either way. Yeah, my kitchen has a library, guys. You know, my kitchen, you know, just has a library right here, bro. Come on now. Y'all can hate on my library, but it's an actual library, okay? Get out of here. Yeah, they're all cookbooks, apparently, in here. All right. Yeah, all these books are going to be obsolete because of AI. Basically all of them. All right, we're consolidating down here. We're at 23,165. Top 3 best libraries, I would argue. All right, let's see who our new top fans are. Our new top fan is Jeff Jones. Shout out to Jeff. Zet, number 2. Stretch, number 3. D, number 4. Ton number 5, Fender number 6, Soho number 7, Liberty number 8, Trung number 9, Admiral number 10. I expect these to change as time goes on, though. I would say Sam, one of the more consistent posters. BT, Ty, Demetrius, Bunny, and more to be in the top eventually. I have high expectations for you guys, you know. Do we smell what John is cooking? Give him the people's elbow. All right, anyways, NASDAQ coming back down. Looks like we got out around the top here. Big red showing up in markets. Let's see if this is news related. All right, so Citigroup sees fiscal year adjusted revenue guidance to about 84 billion. Saw about 83 to 84.1 billion. So middle range, slightly lower than the top end of that range. Apple commits 500 million to American rare earth magnets. All right, so look at this level here. I'm not going to say it. Listen, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But look at this level. All right, guys, we got 25 minutes left. CPI will bring us an opportunity. Maybe. Yeah. Anything above 0.2% is still too much. No. All right, guys. Again, big story is this today's CPI inflation report dropping in over 20 minutes. Big story of the today. Let's talk about it. June CPI expected to show a big uptick. This is the first time a lot of analysts are thinking we're going to see the tariff impact to inflation data. Expected 0.3% month over month, 2.6 to 2.7% year over year for headline. Core is expected at 0.3% as well. 3% for year-over-year data for core, marking the first clear pass-through effect from tariffs on goods like furniture, electronics, and autos. And we're going to dig deeper once this report comes out. Core CPI, again, 3%. Powell describes this summer as pivotal to assess if tariffs are translating into sustained inflation, influencing what the Fed does. While the Fed is getting a lot of pressure, Jerome Powell's thinking about, there's rumors about Powell retiring and all this different stuff going on. And so today's CPI report is incredibly important. Analysts are specifically watching a couple goods categories to watch. They're watching household furnishings, electronics, outdoor equipment, and toys, where tariff may be inflating prices the most, right? So those are the big ones they're watching, and again, we're going to dig deeper into that. So look, we bounced exactly at my level, and now we're continuing down here. I still think I should scalp this level sometimes. NASDAQ's falling quickly here. And again, I think a hotter CPI print is going to push the 10-year Treasury yields higher, strengthen the dollar, but weigh on rate-sensitive things. We had a bunch of bank earnings this morning, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and more. State Street missed, I think, but a lot of the other ones beat. Still, we had mixed reactions, though, to these. Like, if you look at JP Morgan gapping down from this, Wells Fargo gapping down from this, State Street's basically flat, and we had a couple other ones like BK, Bank of New York, basically flat. So yeah, that's where we're at now, leading into this report. When was CPI not important? It's always important, but sometimes it's more important than normal, than average. And I would say today's is that. CPI is always important, but depending on what's going on geopolitically or macroeconomics wise, influences how important it is. It's always important, but yeah, the Amazon Summit Wednesday for sure, Demetrius, 100%, man. We're gonna be watching that too. I'm using Top Step X right here to draw these levels. This Top Step X. If there's higher inflation, do stocks go up too? Generally, no, but you never know. Like most of the time, higher inflation is bad, especially in a market right now where I would argue the market wants rate cuts. Higher inflation is going to push the odds of rate cuts down, not up. And again, at this point in time, we took a look at this morning. If we take a look at the rate expectations here, rate expectations are currently under 5% now. This has changed. Yesterday it was 6 to 7% likelihood of a cut in July. Now it's under 5 at 4.7% likelihood of a cut for July. Treasury yields have spiked over the last week, specifically starting on the 11th and going up basically since then. Been sideways for a few days though, but higher inflation is going to make yields go up. And so that's something to watch too. And yields and interest rates follow each other. So another big story to watch here. Again, Robinhood tried to get into the S&P 500 and failed. They ended up adding the trade desk instead. Michael Saylor's strategy now holds 3% of all Bitcoin in circulation. All right, guys, we got 20 minutes before data comes out. What would be a good bad percentage? It all has to do with expectations as well as last time, right? So today they're expected month over month at 0.3%. I would say a good percentage would be 0.2%, 0.1%. You know, year over year expected at 2.6 to 2.7%. Trueflation has it at 2.4%. And so a good percentage would be under 2.4%, I think. Right, but you never know, right? You never know how the market's going to respond. In general, I would say it's a higher probability the market's going to respond positively to lower inflation data. That's what happens most of the time, I think. But I've also seen it where we have low inflation and the market dumps down. So it depends on the context of like what's going on. You know, sometimes when the economy is really weak and people are fearful over recessions and depressions and stuff like that, they want to see higher inflation, not lower. And so it's never 100% either way. It just depends on what the market fears, what the market wants, what the market is scared of. You know, that's going to influence a lot of stuff. For a long time, we had a negative reaction in markets to good economic data. Like we'd have stronger payrolls, market would go down. We'd have higher GDP, market would go down. We'd have lower jobless claims, the market would go down. This was in the overly hawkish and restrictive Fed 2022, 2023 periods where they were raising rates, fearing inflation. And so if the market genuinely fears inflation in a significant way, they're going to want weaker labor market because that might cool inflation or help cool inflation or show less signs of ramping inflation. And vice versa. If the market fears economic weakness, you know, in theory, they could react positively to strong economic data and negatively to low inflation data too. So it's nuanced. It's very nuanced, but yeah, I'll probably trade the volatility or at least try to. When do you think Powell will be kicked out? I don't think he's going to be kicked out personally, but I might be wrong. I'm just guessing here. I think he's going to stay until his term's over next year. He's got less than a year. I think they'll just let him finish, but you never know. What would be the ideal amount you should start investing with as a beginner? I'm going to preface it with investing is a different thing. Trading's one thing. Investing is different. So in terms of investing, personally, I think the better move would be to, if we're talking about investing, I would just buy the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable. If you lose money, I always make your own assessment. Trade smart. I can't guarantee anything. Market might crash tomorrow. If it was me, I just tell, like, if I was telling my son what to do or my daughter what to do, I would just say, hey, buy the S&P and the NASDAQ. DCA into it long term, meaning add a little bit, buy a little bit more every 2 months, 3 months. Maybe tell them if the market falls big, you can even add, you can even justify some more ads at those lower levels just to kind of buy the dip, but then sit on it, never sell regardless of what happens until you're 30, 40, 50, whatever you want to sell, and if you start investing now and slowly add money to it over time, in theory, you should turn that money into a lot more by the time you're 20, 30, 40. At the very least, you're going to keep up with the inflation losses that you're going to take over that many decades. And so right, so we're dipping down. We're still testing 150. We were testing it numerous different times. Yeah, we got a bunch of earnings reports this week. We had JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, State Street, and more this morning. Most of them beat. State Street missed EPS, I think, but most of them beat. A lot of them reacted negatively because of what they had in their earnings reports, though. Well, the NASDAQ, the QQQ holds Nvidia, though, Ton. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I tell them NASDAQ, S&P is because both of those, you get exposure to Nvidia, but you're also diversified, which is what you want in the beginning. You can isolate some individual stocks and buy those too, or do whatever you want to do in that context. But for me, I want, like, if I want my kids to stay in it, not sell, I just want to simplify it. And that's where indices play, you know. Hey, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. What's up, Johan? Curious on the other side of the coin. What if we're not talking about investing, but trading? If we're talking about trading, I would tell them to paper trade for a long time. Wait until they have a winning, tested, large sample size system, and then start very, very, very small. Maybe start with like a prop firm or, you know, like Top Step, or just trade very, very small. Yeah. Yeah, hit the live button next to the play button and put it in 2x speed. I checked the delay. There's virtually no delay on the stream today. I'm back home at my home setup, so there's virtually no delay. But if you have a delay, it's probably because you're lagging behind the stream. Put it in 2x speed, hit the live button. You should be pretty good. Yeah, no worries. All right, we're at 150s right now. We still got 13 minutes left until this drops. 13 minutes. I'm excited, man. We'll see what happens. This is the first big data stream we've had in a minute, so I'm excited. Nvidia gonna bust out today, up 16. Yeah, Nvidia's already up huge after the H2O chips were unlocked again to China potentially. The only thing about this though is that both AMD and Nvidia essentially said the same thing. Basically that the U.S. government told them that they would approve it. I still am I'm still optimistic, but I also wonder, like, I want to see a certainty, and I don't know if this is that yet. But it's a good sign for sure. All right, guys, we're consolidating. We have about 11 minutes left. 11 minutes. Hey, good luck, Real Beamer. What's up, Musta? $11 minutes, chat. Give me your last minute predictions in chat right now. Do you think the market reacts in a bullish or bearish way to today's CPI inflation report? Let me know. Bull or bear reaction to this? I don't know. Bear, bull, bear, bull, bull, bear, bear, bull, bear. Pretty neutral here. Bearish, bull, bear. What's up, Goose? Yeah, brother. We're always live. We've been live every day for the last, I don't know. Bull. Looks like there's a little bit more bulls than bears. It all depends on whether Truflation's right. Truflation has it at 2.4%. And so I'm going to go ahead and guess we're going to see 2.4% today, just to keep it easy in terms of guess. Wild guess. Might be wildly wrong. Don't copy me. But I'm going to guess 2.4%. 10 minutes. What percentage do you think it'll show up as? BlackRock exec says they do not need M&A to meet or exceed organic growth targets. Yeah, CPI in 10 minutes. Really about 9.5 minutes, but yeah. Yeah, I'm just mirroring Truflation's data, which has been pretty right. Nasdaq's falling down some here, though. You know what? I'm going to buy this dip. Ahead of CPI, we could chop sideways, so I'm going to buy this dip and then keep it small, maybe add to it. We're already pretty green on the day, so we'll see if it works. But sitting around the 200 exponential. Trading pretty small, though. Now we can just hold it break even. Just waiting here, taking a small trade, waiting for the data to show up is what we're doing. Sell pressure coming in, though. We will hold this break even, though, if it turns on us. Hopefully it continues up. Looks like it wants to bounce, though. There we go. All right, guys, we got 8 minutes. Hit the like button next to the play button. Hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. All right, now we might be going red, so we're going to cut this pretty much flat here. Break even. Still very green on the day, but I want to wait. Looks like I cut it at the right time. Let's see if 133 holds. That was our first small losing trade of the day. All right, guys, CPI inflation data going live. 7 minutes here. 7 minutes. Lower CPI number means lower inflation, which is good for getting a rate cut. Yeah, I mean, lower CPI number, CPI is inflation, you know. So, I mean, no offense, but that's kind of like saying lower car prices means we get lower car prices. Yeah. It's all love, though. It's all love. But yeah, no, I certainly agree with the second half of your statement, which is good for getting a rate cut, Dominic. So lower CPI means more bullish for rate cuts, you know. All right, Chad, 6 minutes left. 6 minutes left. We'll see if we bounce at this 133 level. Yeah, or vice versa, right? So we get higher inflation. It's going to be less probabilities of rate cuts. And the odds of a rate cut for this month in July have gone down to under 5%. Now they're now at 4.7%, 4.7%. Yeah, like you got to understand the Federal Reserve's job is to maintain balance. And so they have their dual mandate, which is basically a strong economy, a strong labor market, and low inflation. Price stability is what they describe it as. Now, if either of those things gets too radical, either of those things get too heated, if the economy gets too weak, their job is to stimulate it and save us from a recession or depression, which is 2 consecutive losing GDP quarters is what a recession is defined as. And so if it gets too weak, the labor market, they will stimulate it. They will bring interest rates down because when businesses and people can take out cheaper loans, businesses tend to expand, and thus they hire more people, and boom, it improves jobs in the labor market, right? When inflation is too big of a risk, they can raise interest rates. And because when interest rates are more expensive, businesses expand less, they hire less people, people have less money to spend, and consequently spend less, and inflation can get pushed down because of higher rates. And their job is to maintain balance between the two. They can do more desperate things like QE or QT, which is basically money printing to stimulate it and bring interest rates down quicker, or restricting liquidity from those markets and, you know, push rates higher or keep rates higher in an easier way. But those are called QE, which is money printing and QT, which is restriction of liquidity in those markets. But those typically are a little bit more desperate decisions. We got less than 5 minutes here, chat. Less than 5 minutes. Yeah, I got a new camera as well. So I got a new camera. I got a new light is what this is. I'm trying not to blow the mic up with puffs of air. Sorry if I am. All right, so we did bounce at 135s roughly. I had a level here too. I think I'll put it at 135s now just to make it easier. All right, guys, what percentage do you think inflation is going to show up at year over year? Headline inflation. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon says they have not seen an inflection point in the last 3 months. Heading back up to 150. We got 4 minutes left. 2.7%. So you think it's going to come in as expected? Pew says 2.4. KA says 3.3. 2.4, 2.4. A lot of people agree with me, I guess. 3%. I don't think we're going to show up at 3%. I think if we do show up at 3%, market's going down, though. It's 3% for headline inflation. All right, we're starting to creep up. All right, chat. Slightly over 3 minutes left. And remember, hit 2x speed. Put it in fast mode. There's 150 here. We just tapped it. Look at that respect of the level. 1.5 is wild. There's no way we're going to show up at 1.5%. I mean, maybe we do. If we do, I'll eat my words. But I don't think 1.5 is reasonable. We have a poll. Yeah, 2.7% would be as expected for headline inflation today. 2.7 would be basically flat. All right, we're getting ready to look at the June CPI print. Waiting. Last time it showed up at 2.4% on the year. Look at that level, 150. Market's respecting it. We got 2.5 minutes left, chat. 2.5. Be ready. Housing starts for June for Canada showed up at 263. We also have the Empire State Manufacturing Index dropping at the same time in 2 minutes. Hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed. We have 2 minutes left here, chat. Two minutes. I'm going to put gold up, I think. We got gold and Bitcoin up here. Here we go. A minute and a half, chat. A minute and a half. Here we go. Yeah, make sure you hit the live button next to the play button. Make sure you put it in 2x speed. We are almost here. We have about a minute left. We have the NASDAQ. I'm going to put the SPY up. I think too. All right, here's the SPY on the bottom right. Here we go. Less than a minute. $45 seconds. I am going to put it in sub-only mode as well right now. So if you haven't already subscribed, hit the notification bell. We appreciate it. We are in sub-only mode now. We have about 30 seconds. 30 seconds. All right, 15 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3. This timer's a little bit early, but here's the report right here. Okay, CPI showed up at CPI showed up at 2.7% versus 2.6% expected, 0.3% as expected on the month. Core CPI showed up lower than expected at 0.2% versus 0.3%, 2.9% on the year. So core showed up better than expected. Regular showed up as expected, basically, at 2.7% for regular headline inflation. 2.7%. So inflation data showed up slightly better than expected almost everywhere here. Core CPI did show up better than expected. Year over year showed up slightly better at 2.9%. Regular CPI showed up at 2.7 versus 2.6%. So that's basically what we got for inflation data today. Better than expected or as expected for inflation data. All right, so better than expected, as expected for inflation data. And the market is really reacting positively to this. Better than expected almost everywhere. Canadian inflation did show up. We'll put this up on screen, but the big story of the day is core. Better than expected. Core better than expected. Better than expected for core, both metrics. Lower year over year at 2.9% and lower regular for core. Again, regular showed up at 0.2% versus 0.3%. Core showed up at 2.9% versus 3%. Regular CPI year over year showed up as expected at 2.7% basically, and CPI month over month was flat at 0.3. So better than expected almost everywhere. We'll put this data up on screen. But yeah, better than expected almost everywhere. For core is, and I think markets are reacting favorably to core. If we take a look at the actual report here, chat. If we take a look at the actual report, it says it rose for all consumers, increased 0.3% on a seasonally adjusted basis in June after rising 0.1% in May. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, over the last 12 months, all items increased 2.7%. The index for shelter rose 0.2% in June and was the primary factor in all the monthly increases. The energy index rose 0.9% in June as the gas index increased 1% over the month, and the index for food increased 0.3% as the index for food rose 0.3%. Index for food away from home rose 0.4%. All items excluding food and energy rose 0.2%, following a 0.1% increase in May. Let's break this down a little bit further here for you guys. NASDAQ ripped up and is pulling back here. Let me put this up on screen for all the good data here. But core CPI 0.2% versus 0.3%. Regular showed up at regular CPI showed up at 0.3 versus 0.3%. All right, so here's the inflation metric right here. We put it on screen. All right, so CPI rose 0.3% for headline CPI. All right, still ripping up, testing 191s right now. We have the data on screen. Still moving up, testing 191s. Hey, all good, guys. Appreciate the love. Thanks so much. We're going to put sub-only mode to any duration now. But subscribe, hit the notification bell. But, man, again, we're going to break this down. Shelter up 0.2% month on month. Still the largest contributor to monthly inflation. Rent is up 0.2%. Owner's equivalent rent up 0.3%. Lodging away from home down 2.9%. Food up 0.3% plus 3% year over year. Food at home is up 0.3% month over month. Coffee up 2.2%. Citrus fruits up 2.3%. Eggs down 7.4%. Food away from home up 0.4%. Gas up 0.9% month over month, down 0.8% year over year. Gas, electricity up 1%. Natty gas up 0.5%. Yeah, we basically came in flat. Powell should retire. Yeah, I mean, the data was basically slightly better than expected. It wasn't crazy amount better than expected, and the market honestly reacted somewhat favorably, but still, you know, it's still got a ways to go, right? Yeah, so inflation data cooled slightly. New York Fed Empire State Manufacturing Index showed plus 0.5 or plus 5.5% versus an expected, also, versus expected negative 8.3%. So stronger manufacturing than expected as well. Canadian data did show up as expected for CPI, 1.9% and 0.1% month over month for headline CPI for the land of Canada. Let's see if we hold here. We're still respecting this 192 level we have on our chart. 170 is a level. Maybe I'll buy this dip. Let's end this poll here. And we'll ask people, are you bullish or bearish on today's CPI data? So we'll do bull, bear. All right, vote on the poll. We said, are you bullish or bearish on today's CPI inflation print? Vote on the poll. Let me know how you guys think. September is it. Yeah, let's take a look at the rate cut odds. Let's take a look at yields, right? So I think we should first take a look at yields here. So here's yields. Yields are down, which is good, showing a lower interest rate sentiment from this report. So yields are slightly down. Slightly down. We take a look at the 10-year Treasury yields. They should be down on this report. Yeah. So again, here's 10-year Treasury yields. They are decreasing on this report, showing a lower interest rate sentiment being interpreted by today's inflation CPI report. Again, yields are down to 4.41 from 4.43 or 4.44 this morning. They're starting to climb back higher, though. Here's the 10-year yields up to 4.42% or so. Gold is slightly down on this report, maybe showing less of a need to hedge and flock to safe haven assets. So that is the story of today's CPI inflation report. Now, remember, this is just the first side of the inflation report. And again, if you want to check out Top Step, a beautiful way to help support the channel, if you want to day trade, there's no PDT in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, gold, some currencies. Patterns are incredibly similar to blue chip stock patterns. And instead of needing to deposit thousands of dollars, you can get started for $50 on Top Step. If you can make $3K in profit, pass their tests without losing $2K, following their rules, they fund you $50,000 with a 90% split. You get to keep your first $10K prior to that split kicking in. Very similar to funding your own account in terms of split, but it costs $50 to get started. Beautiful way. Zero commission on Top Step X. I'm going to buy this dip right now. This is Top Step Trading Futures. Zero commission on Top Step X. No PDT roll in futures. Just the best way to learn how to day trade and get started for a cheap amount of $50 a month. I'll put the link up if you want to help support the channel. Great way. They are an affiliate or sponsor of mine, so I am biased because I get paid by them. But genuinely useful for traders trying to get started. Most day traders are going to lose their first couple accounts, and so it doesn't make any sense to fund your first account thousands and thousands of dollars versus trying something like this. I'll pin it to the top of the chat if you want to help support the channel. There it is. Appreciate the love. And let's see how this trade does. I might add a little bit more to it. Try to buy the dip. But we respected 170. I think I should have waited for this level, though. And we got a cushion on the day, but we're going to add one more and then leave it here. We got the 200 exponential down there, so I want to give it a chance to bounce. But if it gets too weak, we will cut it and just reset basically flat on the day. There we go. That's better. But looking at our poll number, 67% are bullish from this report. All right, I'm going to liquidate half of this position, or at least a third of this position right here. Just to protect myself. See if we get a chance to ride it up, but that makes me pretty much flat instead of worrying too much about it. Yields are now technically up from this report. Let's take a look at the CME Watch Tool Fed rate decisions here. Like, so here's the CME Watch Tool here, guys. Now showing a 2.6% likelihood. So the odds of a rate cut this month have gone down, not up from this report. September showing a 58% likelihood. So that's gone down a little bit as well from this report. So now it is less likely that we are going to cut. We're getting some deep red action showing up here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that position pretty much flat on the day and now wait. But you don't love to see it. Inflation not going up yet in billions thought. Well, I mean, it's going up. It's lower than expected, though. Just to put this into perspective, right? CPI inflation showed up at 2.7. Last time it was 2.4%. So it has gone up. Don't get it twisted. It has gone up. Same thing with month over month. Last time it rose at a 0.1% pace month over month. Now it's up. All right, we'll try this again. But now it's gone up 0.3%. So it has increased. There we go. It's a little bit better here. Okay. I'm going to take half off. We should have held this position, but it's all good. Everybody gets faked out sometimes. All right, we're out. That brought us back to basically flat on the day, which is good. Rode it right back up. Bounced right at that 200 exponential. I got to be a little bit more patient, I think, with these moves, but it's all good. The weird thing is yields. Like, look at yields. And gold is down, which is an optimistic sign. But people were saying Great Depression. Nah, we're not. I mean, last month or last quarter one was negative, minus 0.5%. So quarter one was negative. Now, if quarter two comes in negative on the 30th, we'll technically be in a recession. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to. All right, I'm definitely buying this dip. We'll add a little bit more to it too. I think we're just too close to all-time highs to not buy this dip, but I might be wildly wrong. Don't copy me. I don't even claim to be a good trader. I don't sell a course. I don't, I'm just trading. All right, I'm going to buy this dip now. There we go. Nice. Yep. Nice. Lock half of that in. Good. Watching yields still come in here. We're close enough to all-time highs on the NQ for me to be optimistic and bullish here, but you never know. You never know. Basically flat here. Yeah, I think I got to cut it. If it's coming all the way back down to that 200 EMA again, it might bounce there again, but we're just kind of chopping now. It's just too much of a risk of us breaking all the way down. We hit 150s, I might retrade it, but this is Top Step X. It gives you 0 commission on Top Step. So again, check out Top Step if you want to help support the channel. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. 0 commission on Top Step X, a huge edge. No PDT rule in futures, just a great platform. You can check it out. Again, they're an affiliate or sponsor of mine, so I'm biased, but genuinely useful, I think. Turtle Power, yeah. Honestly, it's funny. I set that without even realizing it was the Ninja Turtle song. All right, gold's coming up. Which I don't know if it's good. I think that's kind of bad. Gold's never easy to predict, though. All right, so the top step payout policy is you get to keep 100% of your profits until your payout across your cumulative funded accounts add up to $10,000. So you get to keep 100% of your first 10%. They only keep 10% after the first 10,000 is locked in profit. Again, they have some of the best rules in the game, in my opinion. Again, we're going to day trade live at the open, so stick around. We are going to be day trading live at the opening bell. And again, stick around. We're going to be day trading live. We're day trading live right now. We need 23 subscribers to break 163,000. 23. I'm not going to pressure you, but you know you want to. Try it one time. Tomorrow we have PPI inflation data as well. So the inflation metrics have two sides. Consumers and businesses or producer inflation, wholesale inflation. Today's was CPI inflation. Tomorrow we get the other side, PPI inflation. And it can have a lot of influence over rates, decisions, markets, finance. And so it's something you want to pay attention to as well. It drops tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So stick around. Be ready. Nvidia, let's take a look. So gold has moved up over the last few minutes. Nvidia is basically flat, and it's been flat since 5:30 this morning. Here's Nvidia's range since 5:30 this morning. It is very small, very flat. You can kind of see it here. Hasn't really moved. It went up a little bit from CPI, but it's basically been stagnating since then. Here's treasuries. You can see Bitcoin has done a very similar thing. Bitcoin honestly went up a little bit and then turned back down here. So yeah, I mean, tomorrow we have NBA 30-year mortgage rate data, PPI inflation data, industrial production data, bar speaking at 10. And then Thursday we have retail sales data. We got Philly Fed index, jobless claims, retail sales. So we got a whole bunch of stuff, to be honest, this week. Well, Bitcoin's already up a lot over the last couple weeks or months. So it's not going to go straight up. You have to play extension into it. Look, I'm going to get stubborn and try to buy this dip. What I'm trying to catch, guys, is the run up to all-time highs on the NASDAQ. That's what I'm trying to catch. There we go. That's what I want, is the run up to all-time highs. All right, we just made a little bit there. I wanted to hold a piece of this too, though. I'm a little frustrated I sold just now. I was trying to cut one of those contracts. Instead, I cut both. We'll see if we get a dip back down. I can buy back in. It's a little bit better, but I think the NASDAQ is getting close to all-time highs here. I guess I'll start buying in. There we go. We bought back in. There we go. We can hold this break even now, but ideally we'd like a little bit. There we go. This is what we wanted the whole time. I accidentally sold both contracts here. We're just going to hold the rest break even, let it try to ride up. 40 minutes until the opening bell, chat. I don't know if this is gambling. I think I think all-time highs are right here, and I think I've talked about this before, but I think the closer we get up there, right, like the closer we get to all-time highs, the more probable it is that we're gonna break all-time highs. And so, you know, we're up really nicely on this trade right now, to be honest. And like it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. All right, I'm gonna sell up here and then rebuy on a pullback, I think, if we get it. But I think that sentiment makes perfect sense. I don't think that's necessarily a gamble. I think that's just logical. We might run up and break it now. I might not get a chance to buy back in, but if we get a dip, I might be interested in it. We're just getting really close to the all-time highs on the NASDAQ, and I think after inflation data, when volatility and liquidity are higher, it makes sense to retest. It's what the original trades that I wanted to get into were about. I took a little bit too large of size initially, is what happened. So I ended up just kind of getting squeezed out, but the thesis was right, it looks like. Definitely top 3 gambler in the world right now, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at yields too a lot. Bitcoin creeping back up there. So is Nvidia. Yeah, so inflation, we broke all-time highs. We got up to 23,207 or 208 is the new all-time highs on the NASDAQ, and now we're getting very close to that. So again, that thesis played out. It played out. And we made a bunch of money on our last few trades. I mean, it's been pretty solid, you know. Now we're kind of looking like a double top, so I'm just going to wait. We also have to watch Nvidia. Where's Tesla at this morning? What's Tesla done? Tesla up to 320s. What's gold doing? I would assume gold's going down over the last few minutes, but nope. Nvidia just broke, is this highs of the day, which would be all-time highs too? No. So Nvidia is about 70 cents away from all-time highs. Gold has been trading with the NASDAQ over the last few days. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Looks similar. Nvidia's up, though. Look at Nvidia. So I think the real argument here is like Nvidia might start breaking all-time highs. It's making a run up right now. I'm going to try to buy this. Very small, though. This is very small. I just want to see if Nvidia rides it back up. Like, we're just scalping from the volume of inflation data. Hey, nice. You'd love to see it. I'm going to cut it right here. Yeah, so we basically made all the money back, and now we're pretty much flat on the day. I still think it might go higher, but I'm just attacking the top of the range here. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I don't really like attacking the high of the day break. I would rather attack the range leading up to the highs. This is something I've probably said 50 times. And I think it makes sense, right? So like, just to put this in perspective, I don't want to attack this. It might keep going higher and go like that, but that's not what I'm looking for here. Instead, I want to attack the run up to these highs. So my range of attack is this. And so a lot of people say I'm gambling here, when really I'm trying to attack this range up here to the highs, right? And cover somewhere around here, around the top, and then figure out what I want to do after that. Because I think as we get closer here, and I think as Nvidia runs up closer to all-time highs right here at 127 or 172.80s, it makes the test of this probable. It makes this probable, you know, a test of this area here. And so if we're down here, which is where I've been trying to buy, that's where I'm trying to get in. And I'm trying to ride the retest of this range up, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to explain what I'm doing, you know. All right, so there's the high of the day test. As I said, it makes sense. There's the tap of it. So we just tap this high right here. Let's see if it holds now. Yeah, all good. Good news. No worries, bro. Pawn, was he bad? Was the mech guy bad? Why was he banned? I'm trying to see his old comments to see if he said anything negative enough to be banned. Let me check. Or maybe he's somebody created an account. I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, again, we tapped the highs of the day. I don't really want to attack this. Okay, got you. No worries. I got you. All right, guys, we are now at 9 a.m. in the morning. Do we break highs right here? We're close to it. We're high enough to it. It's dumb for the market to go up on this report when inflation is actually increasing. Maybe, but you also have to understand this nuance of it, which is that the expectations get baked in. All right, so we expected 2.7% for core. We expected 3%. And that expectation was baked into the market over the last few weeks. The market digested and baked that data into price. Now that we showed up, we came in lower than that number for core, as expected for regular. So a net better than expected is what the market is saying here. This is also a period in which the market is testing all-time highs. And so I think that is why we're retesting all-time highs on this inflation report, is because the market interpreted it as better than expected, even if we're higher than last time for inflation. The market's already baked the expectation in, and that's what it does, right? So it's not really based off of last time. A lot of the time it's based off of what we expect to happen and what's already baked in, which with the expectations, if that makes sense. But you never know. You never know. Man, market go up, down, and sideways. We could have better than expected inflation data. Market could dump 20%. I've seen it. Not 20%, but still. SPY's probably going up right now based off of Nvidia's price action and everything else. Yeah, SPY's testing highs. So all-time high on the SPY's 626.80s. We were at 625s. So, or no, we're at 627. So we open up here, we're at all-time highs for the SPY. I mean, there weren't three that were worse, though, Fender. There were three. So basically, the inflation data, headline inflation was as expected. 2.6, 2.7% is what was expected for year-over-year headline inflation at 2.7. Core came in better than expected for both metrics, lower than expected for both metrics. And so better than expected, essentially. All right, so we're still testing this top of the range. I'm not as interested in buying this now that we have a double top, although I do think it'll probably head back up and break it. But I'm just not as interested in checking this out. We'll have to wait. No, I'm not on mute. I can see me coming in the volume right now. So, yeah, we're not muted. Did you see AMD this morning? Yeah, AMD got the same news Nvidia did. Basically, some of their chips are going to be unlocked to China sales. Nvidia has H2O chips. I think AMD's is like the MI something chip. Both of those are going to be most likely allowed to be sold to China now, and that unlocks a lot of business for both chip companies, AMD and Nvidia. That's why they're gapping up significantly. That's why market's at all-time highs leading into the opening bell today in 30 minutes. Like, that's what's going on. So, yeah. All right, SPY coming down some though. And again, this is why I always talk about it. Like, I want to attack the range to the milestone level, not necessarily the break of the milestone level. Why? Because this is high percentage, I think. This is not necessarily. You know, sometimes we see a break and then just a dump down. And then just dump down. You know, doesn't mean we're not going to move back up, but that's why I stopped trading after we tap it. Double top is the reason I am long. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the range, right? So, like, if we see a bottom here and then a retest, it's kind of like a flag in that situation. You know, or a triangle or whatever you want to call it. So it just depends on what we do here. There's always so much variance. That's why I always, like, people always saying, you know, we have to do something, or the market's going to do this, or making fun of other people for their thesis. It most of the time those are the newest, like, rookiest, or they're just the most emotional traders. Like, if you shorted down here, you might be mad we're going up, and you might, if I'm buying, you might say, oh, he's gambling, he's mad, or whatever. But the reality of it is, nobody freaking knows what we're gonna do. Variance is so high with short-term day trading that all we can do is speculate and guess. CPI data showed up, like, what, 30 minutes ago? Well, yes, but compared to the last data, it's way higher. I wouldn't say this is positive. But a way higher CPI print was already baked into the market, though. Like, that's what you got to understand. Like, I can read the articles that I had leading into this inflation report just to put it into perspective. Right? So before the CPI report came out, we had headlines like this. June CPI expected to show a notable uptick, 0.3% month over month for headline and core, marking the first clear pass-through effect from tariffs on goods. So that was, and I saw a lot of different headlines that basically said the same thing. And so that is the expectation from this report, right? You got to understand the psychology of it. Like, that's what everybody expects. And so if we do a little bit better than that, market's going to interpret it as positive a lot of the time and go up. And that's kind of what happened. But it doesn't mean anything. Like, we broke all-time highs from inflation, sure, but we could certainly come back down here. It doesn't mean much. And if anything, the odds of a rate cut decreased from this report, especially for July this month. It went down to, what is it now? It's like 2-point-something%. So the odds have decreased for a rate cut now. You know, they are now, September, it's less than 60. This was up to 60 or 70% over the last month. And the odds of a July cut are now at 2.6%. 2.6%. So, all right, so the president officials are preparing to release AI action plan this month, and the president is going to address on AI plan for July 23rd. He's set to outline AI priorities in a speech asserting U.S. edge, according to Bloomberg. And we're going to stream this live as well, like we always do. All right, so Treasury Secretary Bessent also said that discussions between U.S. and China are in, quote, a very good place, according to Bloomberg. So again, on the 23rd of this month, the president is going to release an AI action plan and a speech. We will be streaming this. Just because I think that's going to influence markets a lot. So. All right, we're consolidating down here, chat. Bro, my phone never shuts up. Bro, why is my hotel charging me $30 a month? Or $30 a day? For what? Alright, I don't know what they're doing. I'm gonna have to look this up. I flew there. I flew there. I didn't park. I flew there and I stayed there. Listen, I spent $300 at the Hilton. Stayed there for 7 hours. And honestly, it was so worth it for me at the time. I got no sleep the day before. I'll pay it again if I needed to. But they automatically checked me out. I saw it. They checked me out automatically. Like they have some type of tracker on the keys. So why are they charging me $30 every morning at 3 a.m.? I got to call them. But again, updated news. The president is going to do an AI action release plan this month on the 23rd in a speech set to outline AI priorities, asserting U.S. edge, according to Bloomberg. Do you take live trades on the stream? Yes. And that's what we've been doing all morning. Look at Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin back up to 118s. So Bitcoin is moving here. Ugh. All right, guys, we got 23 minutes until the opening bell. We are going to be day trading live. Nasdaq's getting ready to test all-time highs again. Bitcoin pushing up. Nvidia testing all-time highs now as we speak as well. Redbook showed up at 5.2%. Nasdaq's getting very close. I kind of want to buy the dip here, but we are looking at a flag-like pattern. So... all right, guys. Whew. Nasdaq's getting very close. Bitcoin's still rising. Nvidia's in like a wedge, but we'll see if it breaks here. A lot of stuff's moving up. SPY's heading up. Nvidia's heading up. Inflation data was mostly flat, but core was better than expected. That's the good news. That's why the market's up. Markets are mostly reacting positively to this, Gabriel. Mostly positive. But still waiting. Creeping around at 23.2s. We're over that now. It seems to be holding as support as well. China convenes a meeting on ensuring supply and stabilizing prices of fertilizers, according to state-backed Security Times. I end the stream about 30 minutes plus after the opening bell is usually what I do. Sometimes I stick around longer. But you got to understand, like, I start my stream before everybody else. That's probably why a lot of people tune in, is because we start our stream at like 7 a.m. stream all the way to 930 plus, and so that's kind of what happens. I think it's going to rocket today. I'll agree. And the 23rd is the same day as the 20-year bond auction, so that and the president's speech will be interesting. Yeah, so the 23rd is going to be... Let me take a look at this. Yeah. It'll give me something to cover next week, too. All right, guys, so we have 20 minutes left. Get ready. Bitcoin's still rising at 118,275. Nvidia is now dipping down, though. That's the only thing that makes me a little more pessimistic. We'll see if we bounce on Nvidia at 171.85 or so, where we have some support, 171.80 to 85. I do have a support level here if you look at it. We'll see if that drives Nvidia higher and it lets the NASDAQ break all-time highs. If not, maybe we'll test it at the opening bell in 18 minutes, but that's kind of what I'm looking at now. Yeah, so almost all beats for bank earnings today. Look at Bitcoin back up to over 18. Yeah, so Citigroup, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, BK, State Street, A&GO, Ericsson, ACI, Albertsons. All right, bear with me here. All right, guys, we got pretty soon to the opening bell. Bitcoin's still pumping up. Let's see if Nvidia bounces right around the support level. If that happens, it could drive the NASDAQ higher. 200 exponential is getting a little bit higher as well, too. JP Morgan CEO says all the tail risks and the markets are still there. All right, Bowman is also speaking right now. Let's see what she's got to say. Bowman's speaking right now. She's speaking at a Unleashing a Financially Inclusive Future meet. We'll cover what she says. Maybe we'll put the audio up. Bowman is one of the ones that pushed for rate cuts in July, so we'll see what she says. Nightbot coming in number 3. Let's see where our top chatters are. Jeff, Zet, Fender, Yowzer, Womble, Pawn, Ryan, Enrico, BT, William Palmer, Arian, Trung, Shy, Marvin, Golden, Appreciate the love, guys. Thanks so much. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We appreciate it. I'm waiting for Bowman to speak. Let me mute the music for a second. Still nothing. We'll cover what she says when she starts speaking. All right, so look at Nvidia. Starting to bounce where we talked about at 83 or 82. Let's see if the NASDAQ drives up with this bounce. Again, I think that makes plausible sense. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I think there's a reasonable little bounce level. And look at Nvidia bounce here. I guess my levels work on stocks too, but doesn't mean it's going to hold. And it kind of correlated with this level here too. Do you guys like Jamie Dimon or dislike Jamie Dimon? Yeah, I heard some people asking about WIF. I don't really mess with meme coins, to be honest. It's not really something that I look at or invest in or trade. All right, so here we go. Here's the start of this conference. Bowman does not comment on monetary policy and the economy in prepared remarks. So, nothing. Yeah, I was watching WIF run, but like, it's just not my style. Yeah, I mean, Diamond, again, I've always said you got to watch what banks do, not what they say. And Diamond has been very vocal, to put it into perspective. And so I think a lot of people are mad at him because he pushes them in different directions. But you got to watch what banks do, not what they say. Because they'll tell you, oh, it's the end of the world, you better sell. And then they'll buy up big and then we'll run 10, 20% over a 6-month period. And then they'll sit there being like, well, so like you got to understand, watch what banks do, not what they say. That's the big key. Watch what big money does, not what they say. It's the easier way to put it. No, I longed NASDAQ for CPI mostly. All right, guys, 12 minutes into the opening bell. We'll see what we get. I'm ready for it. Hey, we broke 163,000 subscribers. So, thank you, guys. I appreciate the love. Again, Q2 earnings started. Mixed results. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, BOK all settle lower, though, after the earnings for varying reasons. So, a lot of them beat EPS, beat revenue, but gap down for some reason. $30 seconds. Here's Nvidia bouncing. Well, I'm not going to say it, but do we have good CPI? Well, good is subjective. CPI showed up as expected for headline on both month over month and year over year, and better than expected for core. So flat to better than expected inflation data. NASDAQ's testing all-time highs ahead of the opening bell. We got 10 minutes left into the opening bell, and we are testing all-time highs on the NASDAQ and the S&P, I think. Let me see. Where's the SPY? Yeah, SPY is right around all-time highs. SPY all-time highs, if we're looking at pre-market, are 628 roughly. We're at 627.50. NASDAQ at 205, all-time highs at 209. So very close, very close. Nvidia bounced exactly at the level we talked about, 171.80 to 85, all the way back up to 172 now. Yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. NASDAQ just broke all-time highs, new all-time highs on the NQ 212s. Bitcoin's been pushing up this morning a little bit as well, or recently this morning. Down still on the day. Actually, no. Slightly green on the day, actually, for Bitcoin. Bull or bear into the opening bell chat? 68% were bullish on the inflation print, according to the poll. Out of about 1,500 votes, 32% were bearish. So again, Bowman didn't comment on monetary policy. She did say that innovation in the financial sector plays an important role. The city CFO on consumer spending said we expect further cooling as tariffs come through. NASDAQ at all-time highs. Nvidia finally coming back down here, though. Look at the 200 exponential under this level. We're at 171.67. So that might be a spot. We could also have a level, yeah, around 161.68. SPY heading back up still, though. All right, so Pantheon Macroeconomics provisionally estimates that today's CPI data are consistent with a 0.35% increase in the core PCE deflator. So that is going on too. NASDAQ's pushing over all-time highs again, still. 216s, all-time highs. 217s, actually. News Corp announces a $1 billion share buyback plan as well. All right, still pumping up. Nvidia consolidating around the 200 exponential at 171.70 or so. Yeah, I'm gonna have to calm Nightbot down. He's posting too much, dude. Hold on, Nightbot. If Nightbot's my #1 fan, he needs to chill out. All right, so we did break down under 171.60s, under the 200 exponential. The NASDAQ's running up, so this has got to be from something else. Apple heading up, AMD, Google breaking highs up to 184s right now, and they did announce some data center investments. So Amazon, Google heading up. Amazon up to 227s. All right, so we push back how often these guys post. Isn't summer supposed to be quiet? Summer's definitely a little bit more quiet than normal, but it all depends. So look at us hold at 208. We are now up to 220 in the NASDAQ here. Just under 220, but 220, close enough. All right, so the White House says Financial Times article about a call between the president and Zelensky misinterpreted the president, that the president was merely asking a question, end quote. Nvidia's leading the way right now. Nvidia's pulling back as we speak here, but I mean, it is gapping up significantly, but like, look. Nvidia has now dipped under the 200 EMA and the volume weighted average price. So it certainly has helped the NASDAQ break all-time highs this morning, but this latest push to all-time highs is mostly driven by Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you know. So it's not really pumping up right now. Bitcoin dominance dropping. Yeah, we got 3 minutes until the open, chat. 3 minutes. I don't know what we're going to do here. What I do know is hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. We do this live every day right here. We don't sell a course, don't sell a service, don't even claim to be an expert. We just kind of give people free stuff, cover free news, trade live for free. If you appreciate it, subscribe. Thanks so much. Hoping for a pullback, P-Money. Nvidia profit taking might happen later. Yeah, I mean, the opening bell is going to be interesting, I think. Like, that's what I'm watching for, is the opening bell. Palantir up to almost 150. SPY pulling back now, too. So, very interesting open. SPY is very close to all-time highs. All right, so the U.S. House Rules Committee has approved debate on key Bitcoin and crypto legislation. Regulatory clarity is finally on the table, according to Bitcoin Archive. JP Morgan CEO says we can possibly do more share buybacks. Taking a look at banks here. JP Morgan now green on the day. Wells Fargo still pretty red. State Street still pretty red. What else did we have? What other banks? We had a couple other ones. All right, here we go, guys. Less than a minute now until the opening bell. Hit the live button next to the play button. Make sure you fully subscribe. We appreciate it. But we got 45 seconds until the open. Yeah, Bowman didn't say anything, though. They already put out comments that said she does not comment on monetary policy or the economy in today's remarks. So Bowman's not saying anything. She might be talking about the future and technology or whatever, but she's not going to comment on specific current monetary policy or economics and markets. Is it a buy or sell at the opening bell, chat? Let me know. We got 20 seconds. All right, here's the opening bell. Good luck. Hit the live button. Let's see what we get. Here's the bell. All right, there's the open. Let's watch Nvidia and Bitcoin. AMD breaking highs at the opening bell. Highs of the day up to 155.25s right now. NASDAQ just broke highs as well, up to 22s. Some movement happening at the opening bell this morning. All right, so we pushed up and then pulled back. Nvidia falling at 170.50s now, 170.40s, 170.20s. AMD's running still, though. NASDAQ's undecided since the opening bell, kind of retracing back and forth now. I'm watching AMD closely around that volume-weighted average price at 153s and 154s. Because Nvidia's down to 170, under 170 now at 169s. Yeah, my hands are off. I'm not trading this. Still too early to tell what the market's going to do. None of these dips or moves up are significant whatsoever. AMD up to 155s. Nvidia down to 169s, 168s. Yeah, honestly, I told Nightbot not to post so much, and he keeps doing it. I'm kind of mad about it. I'm about to turn Nightbot off if he keeps posting this much. Here, I just turned him off for now. We'll turn it back on tomorrow. Nightbot, sit down. Take the rest of the day off. You're spazzing out a little bit. All right, so pretty flat. AMD ripping up, Nvidia dipping down at the opening bell. When AI takes over the world, Nightbot's going to be the first one to come for me. AMD on 156. Yeah, I guess so, man. Yeah. Honestly, but here's the thing. I say thank you and please to OpenAI and Gemini. So I think I balanced it a little bit. Nightbots, I fear OpenAI. All right, so we are falling down some more. All right, we're coming back down. We're at 23 170s for the NASDAQ, hitting the 200 exponential right now. Nvidia looks like it might be flying back up, though. We're still too close to the opening bell for me to trade. Look at that bounce exactly at that 178 level. Look at that. Nvidia's starting to fight its way back, too. Hold on. Do I want to trade this? Kind of. All right, I'm going to buy. We might add one to it, but I'm not going to hold this very long. Bounce again at the 200 exponential. We're down small, but I want to see if that 170 level holds and Nvidia fights its way back up, which is kind of starting to. We break this low, I got to cut it, though. I gotta cut it, I think. We're just getting too close. We're still pretty flat on the day. We might bounce at 170. And there we are. Fake out. See if we can buy this dip. No, it's too dip. Too much momentum. Yep. See, Nvidia's heading up, though, and so is AMD. This is what's weird. That's why I've been wanting to buy it. I'll try. Well, faked out. I'm going to cut that small. I'm going to switch. We got a couple different funded accounts. I'm going to switch funded accounts right now. I don't want to take too much risk on this one. Big dips here. Nvidia looks like it's coming back, though. Looks like it wants to, at least. The only thing about it is AMD way down there. We're hitting that 200 exponential though, so that's the only thing is that 200 EMA rejects it. All right, so we are technically green in that first account we were trading too. We ended up buying this dip because Nvidia started to run. I'll keep trading this account, but yeah, AMD has been ripping up. It hit 157s, and look at Nvidia back up there too. Where's the highs of the day on Nvidia? So this is a very strong move. It looks strong, but I need to buy a pullback here first. There we go. That's a pullback. Let's see if we can buy it. We still have PPI inflation data tomorrow, chat. So remember, we do have inflation data coming in tomorrow again. So we'll see if that treats us well with PPI inflation data coming in. Let's see if we surge back up. It's hard to tell. Looks like we want to go higher, but it's so close. Yeah, we built up some profit on this account to where we have a cushion now. You can kind of see some of the trades we took, but I think Nvidia and AMD look hella strong right now. Yeah, 23,000 a big level, but we also have 150, which has been respected a lot today. It doesn't mean it's going to be respected again. But really, I'm looking at the two big microchip news stocks of the day, Nvidia and AMD, and they are running higher and higher. Nvidia close to all-time highs, AMD close to highs of the day now, so very close. And you can kind of see some of the trades we've taken. We're now green on the day. 47, 8, 8, 5, 7, 5. So nicely green. We'll see if we can turn it into more now. I'm watching Nvidia. I want to see if Nvidia bounces at 171.60s. No. So I'm going to wait. If Nvidia starts to turn back down, I'm nervous. The volume weighted average price is right here, though, at 171.25s. And it looks like we want to bounce there, but Bitcoin, as we speak, at 118. So Bitcoin's kind of flat over the last hour. Hasn't really moved much. We'll see what it does moving forward. I mean, we watch and invest crypto, but it's not that I changed my setup. It's that I'm back home on my good computer instead of a laptop. All right, NASDAQ's starting to flush. Look at this. Nvidia turning all the way down under the VWAP here. Big drop. Are we going to get flat action right now? I kind of want to buy this. I'll try. Try to hold it. All right, we made about 40 ticks just now, about 40 ticks very quickly. Buying that pullback here. Up close to. I'm going to wait now, though. I'm just kind of scalping this momentum. I'm wondering if banks are driving this. Banks are down. Both bank stocks are falling. Wells Fargo dumping down. Those are what's driving markets this morning, too, I think. This 150 level is interesting right here. So we still got time, but Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft's breaking highs of the day. AMD's retesting it too, though. Here's Microsoft real quick. Up to 505s. Close to 505s at least. Microsoft's still pumping up again. I'm going to put a third stock up here. Up to 505.30s. All right, look at that 170 level. We tapped it. Microsoft running at the bottom right. Look at this. Nvidia and AMD kind of consolidating, though, but I think I'm going to start looking to buy a dip if we can get it. I'll buy it right here. So we can add one more to it. There we go. That's 2. We can take a little bit larger risk since we're up enough on the day, too. But I'm going to cut half of this here. I don't like the move down. It's green on the rest now, though. I'm going to cut it here. I just don't like it. We'll wait. Actually, I'm going to switch my funded account to a different funded account. We got multiple funded accounts. If I buy the dip, I'll do it on the different one. I'm going to buy this 150 level right here. See if we can add to it. 2 contracts now. There we go. Cut half. Cut the rest. Nice. That 150 level worked. S&P over 6,300s now, chat, as well. That 150 level held. Look at that. Should have held maybe a little bit longer, but we're green on everything today for the most part. I do have a challenge account that we can play trade on in the background too. This is brand new. All right, look at AMD break highs. Nvidia making a turn up there too. We're about over the 200 exponential now, getting some strength show up. Crazy amount of strength show up. Big dip coming through. Yeah, we also been trading our funded account in the background. We're up about 150, or a challenge account, I mean. All right, here's 170. I want to see if we break 170. Big pullback all of a sudden, so bull trap. Quick bull trap too. I think it's just Microsoft pulling back now. Luckily, I didn't trade my actual funded account here. Interesting range. How you guys doing since the opening bell? I'm green on all my funded accounts. Down a little bit on my challenge account now on this dip, but I'll be all right. Robert. What's up, George? P. Robin Hood climbing up. That's good. NASDAQ turned red quick here, too. Well. Let's see if Microsoft bounces again here. It's possible. French Prime Minister is to propose the removal of 2 public holidays. Interesting. Big pullback here. Again. Kind of indecisive though. Nvidia's trying to. Very strong candle, but we also have kind of like a mini little cup and handle pattern here too. Will the market get bought up now after pulling back and faking out a lot of shorts? Or a lot of longs? Nvidia's looking weak though right here, so unless we bounce at 150, it looks like we're coming back down, to be honest. You never know though. And we are kind of bouncing here, but it doesn't look like it's holding. There's a lot of selling showing up. Interesting here, chat. How you guys doing? It's the music. All right, the president says a great deal for everybody was just made with Indonesia. So the president says a good deal with everybody is just made from Indonesia. Not the biggest country to make a deal with, but still, deal is a deal, I guess. S&P officially rises above 6,300 again about 20 minutes ago. Well, now we're basically been flat for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes here. Kind of undecided on what we're going to do now. Nvidia looks weak. Microsoft's still looking kind of strong though. So we're very neutral here, I would say, in a lot of areas. I want to see us fight higher, but I think we're also chopping sideways. So which way we're heading is kind of unknown. So if Nvidia finds a bottom, Microsoft and AMD run or do something. There's a big drop. Also, again, check out Top Step if you haven't already. No PDT in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, gold, currencies. No PDT rule. Great way to learn how to day trade. Most day traders lose money, so it's a beautiful way. They give you a 50K demo. They test your skill with it. If you pass the test, they fund you 50K, 90% split. All you got to do is make $3,000 in profit without losing $2,000. 3-to-2 reasonable ratio. If you can do that successfully, they fund you 50K if you follow their rules at least. No PDT rule. And again, your split's 90%. You get to keep your first 10K prior to that split, kicking in 100% of your first 10K. If you fail, you're out $50 for the base one, $100 for the middle one, $150K for or $150 for the top one. So your risk is limited, and most day traders are going to lose their first couple accounts if you're honest. If you pass the test, 50K funded account, 90% split, similar to funding your own account. So it's the best of both worlds. Limited risk, similar reward in my opinion. They pay out hundreds of millions, fund thousands. Top Step X gives you 0 commission as well, so the edge is even higher. Tiny amount of fees. But again, I'm biased because I get paid by them. Genuinely useful for traders, though. Genuinely useful. But if you want to check it out, I'll put the link up. Great way to help support the channel. Yeah, Top Step X is similar to Trade Evade. I would say it's a little bit better, personally. But I don't think they're going to force Powell out. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll force Powell out? I don't think so, personally. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. All right, guys, we're waiting to see if the market holds at 150. I'm trying to get a trend here, but we don't really have one. It's kind of sideways. So we're like playing around trading like challenge accounts and stuff while we wait. I can put that trade up if you want, but for now we're just been sitting tight here. I'm just worried. The one thing I'm worried about, it looks like we might come back, but I'm worried we're just going to have this big drop down to lows. There's a retest of it. Hmm. All right, there's a big drop. All right, well, we got one of our account up 1,500 here. Nvidia's starting to rebound back. I started to hear that tiny. I want the Powell stuff to blow over. They will try. No, they shouldn't. Force, strong arm, maybe. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to blow over. Very slight chop. Again, President announced a deal with Indonesia earlier. Again, give me a follow at Beginner Trades, no PDT, and or give me a follow at Beginner Trades. We post all this breaking news live. We did break 163,000 this morning, so appreciate the love. 163,000. I don't think we have any economic data at 10. Let me make sure. No. We got a bunch of Fed speakers for the rest of the day. They might influence things, though, but we'll see. Speaking of top 3, Nightbot's in my top 3 fans. Hey, good is good, I guess. SBet, crypto stock, up to 26. Crazy runs. Yeah, so here's the test of lows, the drop to lows. As I said, I was worried about for longs, and that's kind of what we got. So not quite there yet, but lows of the day are right here around 122, so we're testing it. All right, Bank of New York CEO said it's a very high bar for M&A, especially a larger transaction. We are focused on organic growth. Look at this level, 133, 135 really is what we have it at. Doesn't mean it's going to hold on the upside, but we did bounce right at this level. Is there anything Jerome Powell and the Fed can do to increase the chances of Jones versus Aspinall? I think there's an argument for raising rates might increase the chances of Jones versus Aspinall, put more financial pressure on everybody, and consequently make Jones versus Aspinall a higher probability of happening. Although it's not going to be super high. They're both wealthy. So I know it's a sarcastic joke, but I'm going to respond in a serious way. Raise rates, maybe. That might help. All right, NASDAQ just broke lows of the day, down to 120s now for lows. I'm only 50 followers on X away from 4,000 followers, so give me a follow at Beginner Trades. I appreciate it. We just broke lows. Do you guys think we continue down now? I can't deal with this song, bro. What's up with this song? All right, remember, guys, tomorrow we have PPI inflation data. Hey, thank you, my guy Martin. Thanks so much, bro. Appreciate it. Again, we did break 163,000 subscribers, so subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit the notification bell. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. See if the market can fight its way back up. All right, we're retesting lows of the day now. Let's see if it holds, chat. Hey, later, Graph. Have a good day, brother. Becoming a member, you get access to these coveted emojis like Beardless John, my wife Carol, Rosie the dog. I'd say it's worth it, you know. You could also put "Good day, sir," "Don't sue me," and "Top 3 ever," you know. The real reason, listen, you want to help support us. I told people I wouldn't charge for content, so I'm not going to have any paywalls behind content. So that's why, you know. Like, I'd feel bad if I had, like, a course that you could only access if you were a member, you know, because I told people I wouldn't charge. So I got to stick to what I say. NASDAQ's bouncing back up at these lows. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea, Pawn, for sure. All right, fighting our way back up. Nvidia climbing higher. AMD right at the 200 exponential, and Microsoft's been pushing up all morning. It's at 505s right now. I'm trying. Over here, chat. I'm trying. All right, guys, I'm probably going to go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate the love. Thanks so much. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already. NASDAQ's bumping back up here. No, I'm not going to charge for what's free. I'm going to get, you know, that's why I'm telling you guys that. It's because I couldn't charge. I think if I tried charging, people would get so upset. So. Anyways, guys, hey, y'all be good. Have a great day. Tomorrow we got PPI inflation data. PPI inflation data tomorrow live. Opening bell. Be ready. I'll see you all then. Be safe. Again, if you haven't already subscribed, hit the notification bell. Check out Top Step if you want to help support the channel. Beautiful way to learn how to day trade, get funded, 90% split. Get started for $50 a month. Check it out. I'm biased. I get paid by them. We'll give you guys one last disclaimer. Remember, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Might lose. Nonstop. Don't copy me. Not an investment professional. Y'all be good. Have a great day. Inflation data cooled a little bit on core. Came in as expected for regular. Tomorrow we got the other end of that. PPI inflation data tomorrow live right here, 8:30. Be ready. I'll see you guys then.